Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. Ramadan Mubarak. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS to Shout Out Show. Hope you're having a blessed day. For those of you who are fasting, hope that you're having successful fast. Those of you not able to fast, I hope that your prayers been answered and you're doing good deeds. We all need those du'as, brothers and sisters. So let me start out there. On another note, I want to give a shout out, acknowledgement to Imam Fahim, loss in his family, as well as Hall of Famer Scottie Pippen lost his son, Antron Pippen. So, please keep everybody in your du'as and at these crucial times that they find mercy and compassion and relief. There's nothing easy about losing a loved one. We've talked about this on the show. Again, I'm actually going to shout out Sister Ree. I'm going to shout out my buddy Sheldon for their recent losses in their family. So, we need to keep those prayers going for the families. The transition to there's really no transition to getting back to what it used to be. It's establishing a new normal. So I pray that all these families have success and relief and guidance in trying to establish a new normal. When the loved one leaves, it is never easy. Okay. So let me give a shout out to anybody coming on the shout out show for the first time. Guess what? You're in luck because we're here every day. We're daily. We're quietly motoring to 365 days, which will be this Friday, April the 23rd. Hope everybody be able to join in. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. I'm sure we're going to have some guests, going to have a little fun. It's actually going to fall on a Friday Funnies. How about that? Alhamdulillah. Very appropriate. So if you're coming on the show for the first time, don't feel intimidated at all. What you can do is get in the comment section, express yourself. Let us know you're here. This is a very free and open platform for people to share their ideas. The only idea that's not shared is the one that's not shared. That's the way we go, brothers and sisters. And I encourage you to get a shout out. Be a part of the shout out family, the shout out soldiers who've been with me, riding with me for so long. We started last Ramadan, the first day of Ramadan, and here we are a year later, almost a year later, counting down 4 days to a year later. We're still going strong. And that's always through the mercy and the blessing of the people that come on the show, who make the show, for a better lack of a better word, but also the blessings of a merciful God that lets all of us be here a year later, which is probably more important than the show to me. It's like we're here a year later. Can you imagine that? That on a show through a pandemic, we didn't lose anybody on the shout out show through a pandemic, which is a blessing, it's a mercy. So all I'm saying is, count those blessings, big or small. And if you don't have any, be thankful for the ones you had. Okay. Let me move on. I want to quickly introduce my shout out show family because we have a topic. Can we put our topic up today pretty quickly? There it is. Our topic for Mo Better Mondays is gun laws. Who protects us from you? Again, that's gun laws. Who protects us from you? People go, preach, is that funny? No, it's not funny. Now, let me tell you something about comedians. We don't see everything as funny. We see the world as tragic as anybody else. We just try to make it a little bit palatable with a little bit of laughter. But in this case, I'm going to go for the irony. I'm going to take you guys through what gun law really looks like from my eyes. And hopefully, we'll get something out of it. Okay? But before we do that, let me introduce our shout out show family. First up, we got, you guessed it, my main man, Altaf Rashid, our Canadian ambassador, the Canadian ambassador to the shout out show. What show has an ambassador? Who? We do, the shout out show. And this brother, man, he's regular like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, all the way through 12 o'clock. Thank you so much, brother Altaf. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for coming on the show. Next up, we got Sister Ika checking in all the way from Indonesia, Depak, if you will, out there doing a big iftar, trying to make sure her family is well fed through this spiritual month. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sister. We appreciate you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and Ramadan Mubarak to you. Next up, we have Sister Satana. Sister Satana, brothers and sisters, is this consulting producer for the Shout Out Show. Without her, none of this happens. Let me tell you something. Without her, none of this happens. The ability to use my hands right now is a mercy because I don't have to work all of these contraptions. I don't have to press buttons anymore. And I'm going to tell you guys something. When you're a creative and you're able to work with another person who's becoming a creative, it's like magic. It's like another language that you're talking to somebody. And generally, you get really, really excited about what that person is going to produce. It's sort of like jazz musicians. You know, you had the older jazz musicians. They spent time and they camped out waiting for the next guy. We're waiting for the next guy or the next woman to come up and expand the culture. So I believe that's going to happen with the show. Thank you, Sister Sultana. We appreciate you. So I'm going to get to this part right here, but I'm going to run a clip. You may have seen it, you may not have seen it. I want you to pay attention to some of the subtleties that are going to be said in this brief clip. I want you to pay attention to the subtleties that they're going to say in this clip. Listen carefully, because listening carefully is going to give you a lot of clarity about some of the things I'm going to bring up. This is something where we can't miss certain aspects, because this has so much to do about how we live our lives, where we live, criminal justice, perception, a lot of that. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this rolling for you guys.
This morning, as the country reels from yet another mass shooting, many looking for answers on what, if anything, will be done. The Indianapolis shooting at a FedEx facility, leaving 8 people dead, followed a series of high-profile tragedies, including at a cabinet warehouse in Bryan, Texas earlier this month, a business complex in California April 1st that left 4 people dead, at a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado, and a string of killings at spas in the Atlanta area last month.
It's a national embarrassment.
Authorities in Indianapolis are focused on Brandon Scott Hull. Police say the 19-year-old, who used to work at the FedEx warehouse and took his own life during the attack, used 2 assault rifles purchased legally last summer. Months earlier, police had confiscated a shotgun from Hull after his mother had raised concerns about his mental state. Indiana's red flag law allows police or courts to seize guns from people deemed a danger. But authorities say Hull was not submitted to be flagged. The Biden administration is urging states to adopt and reform those red flag laws, part of a number of measures Biden introduced after the Colorado shooting, but the actions were limited. Democrats are pushing for more, including an assault weapons ban. But gun control is usually gridlocked in Washington, with some Republicans arguing Second Amendment rights need to be protected.
Every time there's a shooting, we play this ridiculous theater.
Back in Indianapolis, vigils for 8 lives, as yet another community looks for answers. And the shooter's family released a statement this weekend, which reads in part, "We are devastated at the loss of life caused as a result of Brandon's actions. We tried to get him the help he needed." Meanwhile, 4 of the 8 shooting victims were members of the local Sikh community, and I was told that some family members in India are now making travel arrangements to bury their loved ones.
Right. Kathy Park Forest there in Indianapolis. Kathy, thank you.
So the first thing you want to notice is the location of these shootings. They were at businesses. Places of work. Atlanta, place of work. Colorado, business. And of course, the last one, Indianapolis, place of work. The other thing that you want to understand is that there was prior notice, if you will, whereby the police were able to go confiscate a gun from this young man, but he was still able to go and legally purchase 2 rifles. I don't know, and I won't get into the culpability of the family where he was able to secure money to go get these 2 rifles. That's not on the family. He's 19 years old, okay? But I will say this, it's the access. And how is it he's able to get 2 rifles after the police confiscate one? It should be something of a red flag, if you will, that this person shouldn't have a gun. While legally, yes, he can have a gun, but you made a decision that his mental capacity is questionable. Therefore, you need to take his gun. My question is, who protects us from you in terms of gun law? Who protects us from you? Your decisions, if you will, in regards to gun law. Who is allowed to have a gun? While they won't say this thing, I will say it. Of all the shooting sprees that you saw, They weren't in black neighborhoods. They didn't involve scores of black people. However, when gun law gets revisited, it'll be most restrictive for blacks and people of color. No brainer. For blacks and people of color, poor, underrepresented, uneducated, those people will bear the brunt of gun law. U.S. gun law, brothers and sisters, has been a long-standing effort to make sure that guns never get in the hands of black people. That's why they can find they can find a way into the hands of everybody else. Columbine, Sandy Hook, they can find the guns can find a way in the hands of everybody else, but not black people. If you really want to do your homework, and I suggest do your homework, go back to the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery. That's one thing. It abolished slavery. But what's more important is the 14th Amendment, which ensured, or at least on paper, ensured that black people would be addressed as citizens. That they would be addressed as citizens. Now, therein lies the rub. That's the problem. Because in the 14th Amendment, though it was on paper, you had veritable back and forth going on whether black people were citizens. Because citizens, prior or right after the Civil War, citizens were allowed to have guns. So where am I going with this? I'll tell you. There's been a long-standing tradition and narrative that the most dangerous person in the world is a black man with a gun. Let me say it again. The most dangerous person in the world is a black man with a gun, because it emotes all kinds of ideas of revenge, being out of control, savagery. We don't do those things. Yes, you have black on black crimes, but how much black on white crime do you really have? And I believe black on black crime is I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but it's been laid there. We have no gun factories in the African American community. Most of the guns that we're talking about are illegally obtained for crimes, are illegally obtained. I know plenty of people black people who have obtained their guns legally and they don't have problems. To me, I feel like we haven't talked about this enough, because everything that's going around right now, it's like we're tippy-toeing around some of the larger issues. Some of the larger issues about police brutality strictly tying to the fact that there's a narrative that when a policeman goes into a black neighborhood or Latino neighborhood or a neighborhood that's deemed suspect or not safe, hear me say, deemed suspect or not safe, which is largely backed up by statistics and logistics and narrative, that when police go in there, the assumption is always going to be worse. The assumption is always going to be that these people, these inhabitants, these residents of these neighborhoods are all walking around with guns. Grandma got a gun. Mama got a gun. Daddy got a gun. You know, little Pee Wee in the diaper, he got one stashed in the back. He's got a gun. And this narrative, brothers and sisters, is killing us. It is killing us. And it allows people to get away with murder. This young man, this young brother, Mr. Toledo in Chicago, he had a gun, but he dropped the gun. But that was not enough. It was not enough, because the narrative has been pre-existing way before he showed up. He was 13 years old. This thing goes all the way back to the mid-1800s, brothers and sisters, when there was actions and efforts and laws in place to make sure guns were taken out of the hands of black people, freed slaves, which meant that you put them in a hostile society. They were newly freed. People would do them harm if they could get away with it, and the laws allow for it. And the thing that you use to scare them and intimidate them, you come up with laws to take those pistols out of their hand. They can't defend themselves, brothers and sisters. The first Civil Rights Act, not the second one, the first in 1866, becomes a compromise on whether they can have guns, because the question is, are they citizens? In 2021, the question are we human? Are we capable of defending ourselves? And if we are capable of defending ourselves, then let us defend ourselves. But don't come around, I don't want to say disarming us and telling us that we're not able to, we can't protect ourselves, when a lot of times we've got to protect ourselves from you, the people who have guns, the people who make gun laws. We can't be naive with this fact, brothers and sisters. Let me say this. Gun makers, NRA and the likes, they come up with laws to make sure, one, that people in the inner city cannot get the guns legally. However, you somehow can get them illegally. I'm gonna tell you something. The price for a gun legally is a lot different than the price for a gun illegally. Hear what I'm saying? The price of life in the inner city has always been devalued. Always been devalued. It's always been devalued to the point whereby when I look at another black man, if I don't have a full detailed understanding of his life, his family, his goals, his careers, or things he's done in life, then I will naturally devalue that person, because that's the environment we've been in. And I will naturally do it because I've been devalued. And the idea of expression, when we're frustrated, when we're depressed, when we're frustrated, depressed, when we're mentally incapacitated to do things, to be mobile, if you, brothers and sisters, that frustration grows. It has to be a terrible thing when you can't really share. You can't really share how you're frustrated, or even be in a situation where it could be facilitated for you, where pride, where status, where standing, where power come from a gun. Come from a gun. Now, let me tell you something. I ain't talking about the people in the hood. I ain't talking about black folks and Latinos. I'm talking about white folks who get jobs as sheriffs, who get jobs as policemen, who get jobs as judges, knowing that this thing is on their heart, knowing that going all the way back to 1866, if you will, even after that, the allowance of a group of white men brought together, better known as the KKK, who were legally empowered to take guns from black people. Why? Why does that happen? All eyes are on Minneapolis right now. Everybody's looking at the Derek Chauvin trial, the man who I say murdered George Floyd. We are glued to that trial. Meanwhile, in Georgia, you hear nothing about Ahmaud Arbery, a black man who was just jogging. Let me throw this out. He didn't have a criminal record. He didn't have any drugs in his system. He didn't have any of that, brothers and sisters. He wasn't assaulting anybody. There was no counterfeit $20 bill. You know, he didn't look suspicious. He was running. And two white men ran him down and shot him. And only through the release of the videotape to a radio station website did we know this. You know, the gun is how the West was won. You can go look at any of the narratives of Native Americans while they fought with bows and arrows, spears, and things like that. Couldn't beat the gun. They could not beat the gun. If you go over in Europe, you know, there's a transition in European warfare where you couldn't beat the gun. It's always been this way in the United States. And the weirdness of it is, there's still that paranoia from a lot of my non-black and Latino brothers and sisters. There's a paranoia that says you have to have a gun because that's the only way you can control the narrative. I was talking to Sister Satana. You ever notice in the hood, if you ever been out someplace, not in the hood, but usually around black people, nothing's going on criminal or anything like that. But when you hear a gun, it's loud. It's loud. And people, they jump into survival mode. They might run, they might duck, they get down behind a car, whatever. The reason it's loud is because it's supposed to be reinforcing something. That this is the ultimate power. That you can't beat the gun. Think about that. You never heard of a drive-by shooting where somebody had a silencer on there. Why? Because guns are used to make a statement. Guns are used to make a statement. When I saw the video of Ahmaud Arbery last week and I watched it again, it was meant to make a statement. And it's a lot deeper than I really thought it was. Hear what I'm saying? It was a lot deeper than I really thought it was. Because it was an instrument of power. They used a gun to assert power over this man. Had they not used a gun, I believe Ahmaud Arbery would still be stomping a hole in both those gentlemen. But it speaks to the frailty of white identity in terms of equality talk. When I say the frailty, they can't see the other way. This is not a racial statement. This is a statement of the laws that are put out. This is a statement of a tradition of laws that are put out in regards to African Americans. And this thing of gun laws is no different. No different. In 2021, we still have people, listen to what I'm saying. We still have people, grown folks, that will question whether black people are citizens. Case in point, Donald Trump goes to Barack Obama and says, I don't think you're a citizen. And I think most of us missed it. I missed it. That was a bell whistle, brothers and sisters, because he wasn't just doing it for that election. He was doing it for people who have been doing it for years. Are you a citizen? Because if you're not a citizen, it means that I could treat you any old way. We sit down here and we talk about immigration and Latino brothers and sisters trying to come into the country. What is it that allows them to be holed up in these camps, these detention camps? Is the fact that the first thing the politicians say is that they're not citizens. So I want us to really, really think about this fact that people are trying to criminalize gun rights for African Americans and Latinos. Criminalize gun access. You see, because the thing is, even with all these laws, let me break this down for you. And I hope somebody will do some research one day. I would say that a Glock in the suburbs for a white person is not the same price as a Glock in the hood for a black person. First of all, you're not going to find people just openly selling guns. You don't really find gun shops in urban areas. That's number one. Number two is the paperwork is monotonous. It's monotonous. Some people can get a pistol. It takes them a while. Some people will never get a pistol. And let me throw this in. One of the bigger deterrents for not having a gun is the fact that gun possession laws, the criminality around gun possession is so high, you could wind up doing 10 years for just having a gun in the car. So on a stop and seizure, your whole life could be changed because there was a gun in the car. Doesn't matter if it's your gun. It shouldn't have been there. Doesn't matter if you knew it was there. You can have a gun charge put on you that changes the rest of your life. So my question is, with these gun laws, the gun laws that take the guns out of our hands, out of our communities, criminalizes if we have guns, but at the same time allows people with guns to come in our community with a fear and a fascination and a fetish that they are somehow under assault, that they are somehow under siege, that somehow they have targets on their back, calling themselves law enforcement in some cases, because there are good cops, don't get me wrong. But there are those cops who are skittish and come into black neighborhoods with all of these. And my thing is, why come into these minority neighborhoods feeling that way? Why would you do that? Why would you come in feeling that way? Knowing that that kid that runs down the street, or the kid that hops a fence, or you have a probable cause, you start thinking the worst about that individual. Not the crime, not the proposed crime, but you start thinking the worst about that individual. And your first move is not communication. Your first move is to pop the strap on your pistol and take it out. It's happened in Minnesota. Brother Wright is gone. Brother Philando Castillo, gone. Brother Ahmed Arbery, gone. These people are gone, gone, gone. These are just the ones you see, brothers and sisters. You know, these are just one, because you got to remember, it was a long time ago. You didn't have body cameras. There was no body cameras. So this is the newest innovation. I can't remember the brother who got shot down in South Carolina running away from a cop. The cop shot him, said he felt like he was threatened, but he was running away. You shot him in the back. However, you were threatened. You know, the kill part is, you know, Malcolm X, may Allah be pleased with him. He took a famous picture of himself looking out of a window with a rifle. Many of you guys have seen it. It's an iconic picture. What I drew from that was, it cannot be that we are so dissociated from life, that we are so unorganized, that we are so barbaric, that we are so dumb that we don't know the importance of defending ourselves and defending our families. You know, self-defense requires investigation, requires assessment, it requires intelligence. And it just kills me. It just kills me when I see these shootings, these mass shootings. What does that require? Does it require intelligence? Does it require assessment? Nah. No, it requires a gun. That's it, brothers and sisters. I'm done. Let me give a shout out to my sponsors. Thank you very much, Mama Son. Happy Ramadan. Yes, indeed. What's going on, Sister Ree? Glad you can make it. Hope everything's going on well in Michigan. Shout out to you and the rest of your family. Altaf said the only thing Ted Cruz got right was saying it was theater. Yeah, it's bad theater. So let me get the sponsors. I want to give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. If you don't want to go to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com, or if you don't want to be financially independent, of course you do. I'm messing with you. Go to 1-800, call 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175, my brothers and sisters. You know, change the narrative for yourself. Change the narrative for your family. Give that number a call. You know, I largely believe, you know, as I talk about this subject, you know, there's a motion out there to keep people disempowered, to keep people away from their own decision making, to somehow discombobulate your own ability to make decisions, your power to have an assessment, your power to achieve and engage your own agency. Money is one of them. Money is one of them. You know, start figuring out what you want to do in terms of definitive moves with your finances and generating revenue, generating wealth. Call that number, 1-800-679-3175. Also want to give a shout out, of course, to Bayan Islamic Graduate School, who's been, again, a great supporter. They were responsible for our Ramadan reflection yesterday, everybody. You know, check out bayononline.org. Again, that's bayononline.org. If you want to find out about schooling opportunities, scholarships, they're the place to go. I am a witness that it works. Okay, brothers and sisters, I gotta go. You guys have been tremendous. I don't want to stay up too long, and I appreciate you. Take care of yourselves. Have a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your shout out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout out show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarif Attar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out tarifattar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.